Hello and welcome to another engaging edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson, your host for this enlightening journey. Today we pause to observe the Day of Remembrance for all victims of chemical warfare, honoring those who have endured its devastating impact. Stay with us.
All children deserve positive parenting. Why not pamper us? Be patient with us. Make time to teach us and, of course, play with us. Celebrate milestones with us and don't forget to be our #1 supporter. Do all these things and practice positive parenting today.
Thanks for staying with us. As a key aspect of legal preparedness, this feature explores the essential steps involved in recording a power of attorney in Jamaica, empowering families to safeguard their interests and ensure their legal rights are protected.
Welcome to the Registrar's General Department. Today we're diving into an important legal tool, the power of attorney. Now this document allows you to appoint someone to manage your affairs when you're unable to do so yourself. Let's explore how it's done here in Jamaica.
Recording a power of attorney may seem daunting, but no worries, we'll guide you through the steps. But first, let's talk about what a power of attorney is and why it's crucial.
A power of attorney is a legal document that authorizes an individual to act on your behalf as it relates to matters that could be legal, financial, personal, or medical decisions. In short, a power of attorney allows you to make decisions on behalf of someone as if you were them.
Now, let's look at the process of drafting a power of attorney.
The RGD does not provide the services or facilitates the drafting of a power of attorney. Therefore, our customers are encouraged to seek the services of an attorney. After this power of attorney document is drafted, it must be read and understood by the grantor, that is the individual who is granting the power. Once this has been acknowledged, that individual is required to sign. This signing must take place in the presence of the relevant attestating officer. For customers residing overseas, it is required to be signed by a notary public, solicitor, commissioner of oaths, or barrister. And for our customers living locally, that power of attorney must be signed by a justice of the peace or notary public.
Once you have your document drafted, it's time to take it to the RGD for recording. This step is crucial as it gives your power of attorney legal standing.
In checking the document, there are certain general requirements to which must be met. The document must be dated, so an execution date must be clearly stated. The name of the grantor, that's the full name of the grantor, and the grantor's complete address must be provided in the document. The name of the grantee, which is the individual receiving the power, must be clearly stated, and the power that is being vested in the individual must be carefully outlined within the document. Once the stamp duty has been paid, the document is signed. It identifies the full name of the grantor and his or her address. That document will be accepted for recording. Any power of attorney being submitted for recording must be accompanied by a valid photo identification of the grantor, that's the individual making the power or vesting the power to another. You would also be required to submit the applicant's ID.
The cost associated with recording a power of attorney is dependent on the number of words contained in the document.
For a power of attorney to be recorded, it is calculated according to its sheetage. A sheetage is considered to be 160 words. So for every 160 words, you are required to make payment of $500. In addition to this, there's a mandatory fee of $500 for the deed receipts. And dependent on how quickly you, the customer, would like to receive the document, you are required to pay an additional fee of $2,500 for the document to be produced within 3 to 5 days, or $1,000 additional for the document to be produced within 7 to 10 days.
Once recorded, you'll receive a certified copy of your power of attorney. It's important to keep this document safe and to inform your agent of its existence.
Similar to that of the birth certificate, where a birth entry number is the unique identifier, the power of attorney would have embedded at the back, stamped at the back, a stamp that indicates the reference numbers that are called the libel and folio numbers. These numbers can be used to obtain copies. Our customers are encouraged not to laminate the documents that has been returned to you, but ensure that you may keep it in a secured folder or a safe or somewhere that is free from becoming damaged or wet.
For more information, visit the RGD website at www.rgd.gov.jm or call the numbers on screen. Remember, planning for the future starts with understanding your options.
In the spirit of fostering understanding and healing, we revisited the impactful work of the Dispute Resolution Foundation School Suspension Intervention Program, focusing on its positive impact on families and communities.
We don't get a lot of people who are our students who are not satisfied. Parents, the major issue for parents though is that they wish their children could come back to the program after their suspension period has ended.
For some parents, they too bear the burden of a child often caught in the unfortunate situation of school suspension. But those who've opted to make use of the Dispute Resolution Foundation School Suspension Intervention Program have seen some incredible responses. Take, for example, Garfield here.
My name is Garfield Warner. My daughter got introduced to the school suspension intervention program. Why sending daughter to school, daughter going out good and thing, and after she's reaching a 9-10 grade to start for a company. Then after that, everything just start go down a different road. You understand? We have to step in as a daddy and make sure it's everything all right with her. So now we get introduced to the program.
God-sent. It's a God-sent program. That's what we tend to get from our parents. And they too, whenever they're having any issues at all, it could be with their colleagues, they are calling to access the program. We actually have programs for our parents, such as the parent sensitization. So they too benefit from this service that we offer.
After being a part of the program, the first half, she was skylarking. After the program and such, then she step up. She left school with a couple of subjects and things. I would encourage other parents to send them children to the program. Things start from a tender age, and all things going right now, everybody smaller is exposed to everything. They come in the movie, come in the songs. They come around the communities. So, which that program is a good program.
So, if as a parent or guardian, Garfield's story sounds anything like yours, then
feel free to reach out to the Dispute Resolution Foundation. We can provide that listening ear. We will also advise you and make referrals where necessary. Parents, feel free to reach out to us if you feel overwhelmed as well, because we know raising children, we don't get a manual to do that. So it's a bit tedious and we learn as we go. So let us help each other. Feel free to reach out to us and we will do our best to assist you. Parents, if you have children at home and you are noticing any maladaptive behavior, they are not listening to you, they're not talking as much, eating as much, any form of abnormal behavior, and I mean behavior that you don't normally see them with, do not be afraid to reach out to the Dispute Resolution Foundation.
for the School Suspension Intervention Program, the numbers supported are high, the commitment remains steadfast, and the tools are available and always ready to assist, even for parents.
My hope for the program is really the end goal is to see a peaceful culture. So I want improved communities and improved livelihoods for our students. That is what I hope to see, and I hope that will be impactful for years to come so that this can be achieved in the end. That is the mandate of the Dispute Resolution Foundation. Well, first of all, we have to have a referral. The referral may come from educational institutions. It may also come from, let us say, the family court or CPFSA.
After the referral is made, an intake session is done, followed by a one-on-one session, then a psychoeducational group session, and another one-on-one session. A post-assessment is then conducted to help put together a release letter with an opportunity to refer students to another external agency where necessary. And then, follow-up sessions are conducted.
This is a program that gives you and your child a second chance. Take us up on this offer.
For further information, visit the Dispute Resolution Foundation's website at www.drfja.org or contact them at 876-906-2456 or 876-908-3657, or you can send them an email at drf@drfja.org.
Home is a safe home. Here are some quick tips to keep household chemicals out of the reach of children. Tip 1. Clearly label all chemicals and store them in their original containers to avoid confusion. Tip 2. Use child-proof locks on low cabinets and store all chemicals on high shelves or in locked cabinets. Tip 3. Teach your children about the dangers and importance of safety around these products. Few simple steps can make a big difference. Keep your home safe and keep those little hands out of harm's way.
Celebrating Eat Jamaican Month, Chef Dennis Osborne invites us into his garden, where he shares creative and nutritious meal ideas using homegrown ingredients.
Jamaica is known for its culinary melting pot of flavors. Our local cuisine mixes inspiration from our European, African, East Asian, and Indian roots, making our meals a wonderful blend of herbs and spices, ranging from simple appetizers to a heavy main course. Under the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries' Grow Smart, Eat Smart campaign, we will look at ways to eat smart. And so today, one of our local chefs will whip up dishes using produce from his very own garden. Fruits are sources of many essential nutrients like potassium, dietary fiber, vitamin C, and folate. And it's best to have it at the beginning of the day. So starting off today's entree is a fruit platter being prepared by
Chef Dennis Osborne from B&E Caterers and Restaurant Limited. Alright, so we'll be going right ahead. We'll be peeling to just create a simple design on the plate here. So we'll be having our papa as well, promoting healthy eating. So here we are using a kringle cutter just to get it fancy. All these fruits that we have here, it's straight from the backyard, straight onto our plate right here. Here you go, perfect fruit platter within 5 minutes or less.
Food security will allow Jamaica to provide adequate and a safe supply of food for everyone, like the fruit platter seen here. Cultivating the food or fruits you love will not only add to food production, but make it more accessible. And if fruits are not your forte,
next on the menu, we'll be moving straight to our fresh salad. So here again, we're making a fresh salad, a green salad. So everything is straight from the backyard, and we'll be going ahead by just making some green vegetables. So we have our romaine lettuce, we have our iceberg lettuce, our cucumber, our carrot, our green tomatoes, and our little cherry plum tomatoes as well. Started right here. So peeling our carrots, Getting it all ready for show. Okay. So we're having the carrot just for color, and carrot also is very healthy and good for us. Let's make some random chops in them. We can just drizzle with some olive oil, or we can add some fresh vinegar to it as well for that tangy taste. But I mean, look at it, it's as beautiful as it gets.
To top it off, you can add peanuts, cashew, or cranberries that are rich in vitamins and minerals. Just another way to make your taste buds scream.
What's next on the menu is stuffed chicken breast with callaloo and stuffed tilapia fish with callaloo as well. So we finally chop in clove of garlic. There we go. Add it to our pot and prepare in our callaloo as well. We're adding some carrot also to it for color. Some fine cubes within 5 minutes. It is all ready to go. And just a pinch of salt. So we're gonna go ahead and prepare our fire for the chicken breast. So we had a knob of butter in it. This is our chicken breast. We're lightly seasoned. Salt and black pepper. Create a pocket inside our chicken breast here. We're gonna be adding our callaloo to the pot in just a bit. This will literally take 10 minutes in the pot, 5 minutes on either side. And then we are ready. You know, we have to have some garlic as well in the oil to flavor it. It is very, very good. You know, we Jamaican, we grew up on garlic. So first thing you stick, grab a garlic. We're gonna stuff our tilapia while that chicken is getting seared. Here's the tilapia here. So we're gonna be putting a knob of butter as well, because we don't want it to be sticking in it. So the butter helps to moisturize it. This is a perfect way to seal your tilapia and shove it in the ovens. We went ahead and blanched our vegetables, so just putting our vegetables here. Adding a sprig of thyme as well. Also some fresh parsley. Let it rest for 2 minutes.
Grab your chicken, slice as desired, and voila!
Stuffed chicken breast with our own backyard vegetables and our charred tomato ready to go.
To keep the fire burning, a side of sweet plantains to complement the tilapia.
You know, Jamaicans, we love ripe plantain, right? And we're cutting it on the bias again using our kringle cutter. So we're adding the Heights green and gold color to our pot. We're julienne our sweet peppers, and these are sweet pepper, these are not bell peppers. Putting our plantains aside. There you have it, roast tilapia, plantains served with slice of avocado on our fresh vegetable from our backyard.
Just yum! And to fill all gaps in the stomach, what's better than to add a blend of cherry juice?
We're actually making about 6 cups of cherry juice, and it's optional for sweetener because these cherries are very, very sweet. We can add a tablespoon of honey if we wish.
And you can do all this with ingredients from a home garden. Let's continue to hold on to our traditions by growing the food we love. Excellent.
As we observe Epilepsy Awareness Month, we explore common myths, explain the true causes of epilepsy, and offer practical advice on how to support those living with the condition.
What do Socrates, Theodore Roosevelt, Charles Dickens, Alfred Nobel, Prince, Lil Wayne, Elton John, Danny Glover, and Hugo Weaving all have in common? If you said they're all famous, that's not quite the answer I'm looking for. All these prominent figures are believed to have or had what many know as fits or seizures associated with epilepsy, one of the oldest and least understood medical conditions.
It is not duppy take you over, it is not spirits. We have these myths that we do need to dispel in Jamaica. Some people think it's contagious, and it is not contagious. You cannot catch epilepsy. Anyone, anytime can get epilepsy.
So, what is epilepsy? It's a disorder of the brain characterized by recurrent seizures, which are short periods of involuntary movements involving a part of the body, a partial or focal seizure, or the entire body, a generalized seizure. Our brains run on electricity, which is produced by cells called neurons. In some people, these neurons sometimes produce a sudden electrical burst or power surge, resulting in a seizure.
Epilepsy is a chronic disorder, just like asthma or diabetes. It's a disorder of the brain. And so when a patient has a seizure, they do have unusual behavior at the time of their seizure. But otherwise, they're usually quite normal. It's also not a mental illness. People with epilepsy are not crazy. It's a brain disorder, but it's not a mental illness.
The cause of epilepsy can be genetic,
meaning that you can be born with a genetic disorder that predisposes your brain to be abnormally wired, and that you are more likely to produce these epileptic discharges and have seizures recurrently. Sometimes you may have, when the baby is being formed in the first few months of their embryological life, you may have an abnormality happening with the brain formation.
Then, there are other conditions that can occur at any time during someone's life that can cause epilepsy.
Those conditions that are acquired would be those related to a physical injury to the brain or an infection in the brain, such as meningitis, which is an infection of the covering around the brain, or an encephalitis, which is an infection of the brain substance itself, as well as you may have stroke, decreased blood supply, nutrients going to the brain, also causing seizures and epilepsy.
Seizures do not always involve convulsions or jerking of the body. There are in fact over 20 different seizure types. Many are quite subtle, as in the case of 12-year-old Liana.
And we found out when she was about 3 months old, it was something very subtle. We found out that she was just staring in one direction for probably a minute or two, keeping that stare.
For Marvin Fullerton, his experience was different.
I first found out in 1994, November 1994, when I was in technical high school. What I did was feeling some itching on my skin. I went to the school nurse, asked her what was wrong with me, and she told me that I need to change my bath soap. Right.
And what happened after that?
Well, I changed my bath soap and nothing really changed after. But it was January 4, 1995 when I had my first attack. And I woke up in my father's car going to hospital.
Even though he was soon diagnosed with epilepsy, Marvin was able to live a normal life for most of his years as a student.
I was able to go to school. I was put on simple medications such as Tegretol CR 200. No problem. It was easy taking it. It prevented me from having an attack, but my body was not having much problems at those times.
Marvin went on to attend the Vocational Training Development Institute, VTDI, and the University of Technology. He holds a diploma in architecture and construction management. But despite his academic achievements, he still has challenges gaining employment.
I'm not working right now because it was just the other day I was in the hospital. right? And I got an interview for a job. The interview was wonderful, but I was in the hospital, so the job somewhat got turned down. They found out about the situation and I got turned down.
Unfortunately, there are those who believe that persons with epilepsy cannot work or lead normal lives.
Most people, 70 to 80% of people with epilepsy can have their seizures controlled. It's the person you employ who you don't yet have their first seizure. Those are more the ones that you should be worried about, because any of us can develop epilepsy for different reasons at any time.
If you believe someone is having a seizure, there are some things you should never do.
Do not put any objects in the mouth. Do not put a spoon to hold the tongue down. Do not bring scallion. Do not take a dirty sneaker and put over the face.
So then, what should you do?
You need to cushion their heads. Whether you have a cushion or a jacket, you can take off and make a cushion just to support the head so they don't damage themselves. You loosen, if it's a man with a tie, loosen his clothing so that he can get some air and he can relax. You turn the person on the side. Do not put them with their heads right back. Turn them on their side and the tongue will fall and any fluids of the mouth will drain out to the side. And I guarantee you, you cannot swallow your tongue. A seizure would take between 3 to 5 minutes. Now, if the seizure continues for more than 5 minutes, you should take that person to the hospital.
Anti-seizure medication is the most commonly used method to control seizures. Discounts are available for epilepsy patients who are registered with the National Health Fund. But there are side effects. Some persons experience weight gain, drowsiness, irritability, skin rashes, and blood platelet changes, among others, all of which require understanding from those around them. Then, there is also medical marijuana or medical cannabis.
It seems to have helped a number of, especially children with epilepsy that have been intractable, that is difficult to treat. But in Jamaica, we still need legislation in order to use it, and there's still a lot of research that needs to be done about the dosing of the CBD or cannabidiol to be used to treat epilepsy, but it surely seems as though it may be promising.
Research has also shown that diets such as a ketogenic diet can help control the onset of epileptic seizures. The Jamaican Association for Epilepsy offers support for persons with epilepsy and their families. The association also holds regular meetings with members at the Andrews Hospital to share experiences and discuss concerns. They can be contacted at telephone 968-8274 or email jaepilepsy@gmail.com.
As we conclude today's edition of Jamaica Magazine, we hope you found these features informative and engaging. Stay connected with JIS through our website at jis.gov.jm and on our social media platforms. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Have yourselves a great weekend.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.